Speaking of loving, this next gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to is a husband. He's a father of 5 beautiful children. He is so committed to making an impact that he actually was willing to risk his life for what you're about to hear. Now, you may recognize him. He was one of the 2 stars of a hit show on Discovery called Jungle Gold. And I never got a chance to watch that when I was up, but I went through and watched some videos. And it's incredible, this whole industry that is impacting every one of us. I remember the first time that I heard this brand president, Scott Lomu, tell me about his mission and tell me about his vision. And he stood in front of the room and he said, every one of us is part of the problem. If you have a smartphone, if you have a computer, if you have any kind of electronic device, the odds are 100% that you're a part of the problem, meaning there's rare earth elements that are inside of there. I had never considered that. I never thought that because of my first world activities, I was affecting people in other countries that weren't as fortunate as us. People that literally are sending their children and their women into these toxic mines to try to bring rare earth minerals so that I have the convenience of making a call in my Tesla, driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour. I never considered that before. Every one of us is part of the problem. But here's the good news. We can all be a part of the solution. And this gentleman right here, as you get to know him, you're going to find that his heart is as big as his body. He's an incredible human. He's an incredible dad. He's been leading the mission here at Element, and his goal is to help all of us keep more of those rare earth elements into the ground. But if we have to bring them out, he's going to disrupt that whole industry, and we're all going to be rewarded for doing it in a sustainable, ethical, and just way. So my friends, please stand up. I'm not going to bring them out until everybody's standing up. Please stand up and help me welcome our next brand president, Mr. Scott Lomu, to the stage. Here we go. You're welcome, brother. You got it, man. Light them up. Green button shoe.
Thank you. In the summer of 2014, I found myself deep in the heart of the West African jungle. I was with my local companion and we were on a hunt. We were searching for an excavator that had been stolen from our site and illegally rented to another mining claim. We'd heard where the site was, and so on a narrow, dangerous road through a thick jungle canopy, we traversed for hours searching for this site. Soon, the jungle, the thick canopy ended, and what lay before us was shocking and horrifying. As we brought our truck up out of the jungle, we looked out, and what we saw looked otherworldly. It looked like the surface of the moon. Every tree, every brush, every blade of grass had been stripped from the ground, and it looked like something out of a movie. In the middle of this desolation, as far as the eye could see, was a pit, a hole that had been dug with my excavator and others, about the size of 2 or 3 acres and about 20 feet deep. Inside this pit was a sea of humanity. Hundreds of men, women, and children, all with hand-carved wooden buckets or big black plastic buckets, sifting through the dirt, trying to separate the overburden from the gold-laden material. And as all these kids and women and children would fill their buckets and they would sort through it, every once in a while, one of them would walk up out of the pit, and they would go and they would meet a man who had a bucket, and he sat on a chair with a bucket, and there was water in the bucket, and the people would dump the material into this bucket. Well, this man then produced from his pocket a small plastic bag, and in this bag was mercury. And he slowly unwrapped the bag. You can see pictures of the exact event here. And he dumped the mercury into this bucket. And by hand, he stuck his hand in there and he started washing the material with the mercury for about 30 minutes. And what the mercury did is that mercury binds to the gold. And so it makes it easier for them to find the gold in the bucket because now it's attached to all this mercury. And so over time, he would sift out the bucket until all that was left, you can see in the bottom of that bucket on the left, was a gold and mercury mixture. Then he produced an orange handkerchief. You can see it in the picture there. And he spread out the handkerchief like this, and he put he dumped the gold and mercury mixture into the handkerchief, okay? And then he would take it and he would form it into a ball. And then he would take that orange handkerchief and squeeze as hard as he could. And as he squeezed, the mercury would seep out. And then, to ensure that he got all the mercury out, he took this, put it in his mouth, sucked as hard as he could, and spit the mercury out onto the ground. But it gets much worse. After he took this mercury-covered gold ball out, he walked it over to a fire. And he put it in the fire to burn off the rest of the mercury. But to make sure that the gold didn't melt, he hovered over the fire and watched it and breathed in the mercury fumes until all that was left was a gold ball. He then placed that gold ball on a ledger that you can see there. That's the actual ball, and showed it to me like a trophy. Now, I said that when we pulled up and saw this site that it was shocking and horrifying, but it wasn't shocking and horrifying to me. I had seen this site hundreds of times. I had been in Ghana for about 2 years at this point and had witnessed this exact act many, many times. And there's a little dirty hidden secret in the mining world. This scene that you're seeing before me happens thousands of times a day in dozens of countries all over the world. And nobody knows about it because the mining industry doesn't want you to know that a large percentage of all the mining that happens in the gold and cobalt, silver, any industry that you can think of is mined by children, is mined with great environmental destruction, is corrupt, exploits the locals. They have to tear down all their cocoa plantations to dig up the gold that's under the ground. And all of these things are happening every single day all over the world. Now, if you see this picture here and you knew that this is the mine where your cobalt comes from so that you can have a rechargeable battery in your phone or so that you can drive an electric vehicle, would you be less likely to have a phone or to drive a vehicle? Well, this is exactly where your cobalt comes from. This is a mine in the Congo, and all these mines in the Congo that have all of this cobalt so that we can have our rechargeable batteries, this is where it comes from, and nobody knows about it. This is the secret that the mining industry doesn't want you to know about, because then you would demand change. I found out about all of this as I was mining in Ghana. By a weird set of circumstances, I ended up on Discovery Channel on a TV show called Jungle Gold. All of the things that I talk about can be verified. You can go to Hulu or you can go online to YouTube and you can see exactly what I'm talking about because I experienced it. In fact, I was a part of the problem. When I got to Ghana, I just thought that's how business is done out here. That's how the mining industry works. And part of me, I turned my head too, because you know what? I like my phone too. But this is what it takes for you to have a phone. This is how many countries have to be involved. This is how many different minerals are involved. This is what it takes for you to have jewelry. And because we value these things so much, we forget about the bottom of the supply chain. We forget about who's paying the price for all these technologies that we love. But this is the reality. This is what is happening all over the world so that we can have the modern conveniences that we have. And then one day, after I had left Africa, I was told about the blockchain. I was asked specifically a question: what can the blockchain do to help the mining industry? And first I said, what the hell is the blockchain? And then after it was explained to me, I realized, oh my gosh, and I had an epiphany. And I realized that if the blockchain can verify information, track and trace, make sure that information is trusted, verify things from the source, similar to what Will talked about with Grow, to where you can actually prove provenance and prove that something was mined ethically all the way down to the supply chain to your finger. Once I saw that, an idea struck, and I said, we can certify the mine. We can use the blockchain. We can find out who the trusted people are. We can actually make a deal with the mine and get them to come into our certification process. We can go out and actually have partnerships with mining companies. We can meet with government officials. And we have done all that and have created the Stryer Registry, which allows companies to register themselves as one of the good guys. 22 years ago, when people were all up in arms about blood diamonds, they came up with a process. It was a paper process that supposedly has gotten rid of all the blood diamonds in the world, but it's a flawed process. Why? because it's a paper process. The blockchain allows us to create a digital ledger. When that gold ball was handed to me on that man's paper ledger, so he wrote down how much it weighed, from then on, nobody knows where that gold went into a global supply chain, and it's probably on one of your fingers right now. And you had no idea that it came at great cost environmentally and to harm to villages and to people. But now, using blockchain technology, we have the technology to track and trace. Element is transforming elements into sustainable crypto solutions. We are living through a new digital age. The old ways are done. We can now, using the same blockchain technology, digitize and monetize anything. We have been approached by dozens and dozens of mines that have asked us to create tokens for their assets that are still in the ground. This is mind-boggling. This is a revolutionary that it allows us to now be able to give miners and mining companies another option to be able to monetize their mine without having to pull these things up out of the ground. And so through the tokenization process, we can tokenize anything. We now have ownership and partnerships in gold mines, jade mines, oil, you name it, and we can tokenize it. We have been approached with trillions of dollars of assets that allow us now, because of new blockchain technology, to digitize and tokenize anything. It creates new opportunity for these mining companies. But it's not just for the mining companies, it's for all of us. We can deal with the masses with blockchain technology. Every ring, every watch, everything that you own should have its digital counterpart. We live in a digital age. We now have NFTs that tell the story of your ring. This is one of the NFTs we created for one of our girls, Amy. This is her dad's watch. This ring shows provenance, where it came from. It has a video attached to it that tells a story for her posterity. It allows us to attach this ownership to her through the serial number. We live in this digital age, and it's only going to get more and more in that direction. So this NFT is for the masses. We have partnerships with incredible jewelry companies who are going to offer our NFTs to everybody so that you can buy with confidence. That NFT will say where the gold came from, where the diamond came from, and everything can now, all real world assets can have its digital counterpart. We're even tokenizing carbon credits. We just sold out completely one of our first carbon credit projects because carbon credits can be created on these mining sites. And carbon credits must be on the blockchain because it's an area with a ton of fraud. And all of this is powered by ELMT. If you are part of our blockchain and you're running a node, you know that you're getting rewarded for running a node. Everything that we do will be purchased with the ELMT token. You can buy gold and get a rebate. You can buy carbon credits. The heirloom NFT you can buy with ELMT. We have jewelry store partners who accept ELMT. You can pay for your certifications. These companies will pay for their certifications in ELMT. You can swap ELMT with other tokens. You can even buy swag with ELMT. And so this economy is powered by a utility token, a true utility token that is solving problems, solving the problem at the mine, all the way through the supply chain, and then verifying it on your finger. And so, in closing here, this time goes by fast. I don't want you to view the ELMT token as a store of value. And I know some of you are saying, wait, what? That's the only reason I have this token. But rather think of it this way. I want you guys to view ELMT as a representation of your values. And if you do that, you'll start to feel and understand what we're trying to accomplish at Element United. The problems are massive. These are problems we don't want to talk about. Now listen, these problems, they're much broader. I have just scratched the surface of what the problems are and what the solutions are. So join us. Please scan this QR code and join us next week for a webinar where we are going to go deep dive. If you think I shocked you with the problems you heard about, just wait. And if you think I impressed you with the solutions that we just talked about, just wait. My name is Scott Lomu, and we are Element United. Thank you.